So first off, welcome to a fireside chat. Who here is an iMasons member? Okay, we got about half. Yeah. So I'm not sure if everybody knows who iMasons is. So we're a professional association. We believe that we're the builders of the digital age. That's everybody in this room and hundreds of thousands of people all over the globe. What we build around the world powers the world's, basically the internet of everything. Without us, the world doesn't operate. And that's a pretty big charter. It's also a really cool charter. So we wanted to put together a professional association of people like us. And that's all facets of our industry. So we started this back in 2016, and we've got thousands of participants all over the globe. And it's really neat because we are enabling our members to connect, grow, and give back. And if you look at this session, this is about you should be meeting the people around you. These conferences are usually that. But really, we're trying to create an environment where we leave our companies at the door. This isn't about selling. This is about you. This is about your professional career. It's about your connections. It's about enabling you to be effective in what you want to do within your career overall. And for folks that know, I literally just made a change this week. I left Uber about 9 weeks ago, and I've been following my daughter around on tour. It's just been incredible. So, yeah, I'm a roadie. Yeah. We've also been tying this back into iMasons. We've been having fundraising events at these shows. So Madison Square Garden, we were at the Xcel Energy Dome in Minnesota. So they did 30 stadium shows. But we've raised, I think now, over $30,000, including last night, and we raised another $89,000 in Monaco 3 weeks ago, all for scholarships. And 50% of those are going towards women. And if I look at this room, it's less than 10%. That's absolutely representative of the problem we have in our industry. We don't have enough diversity, and we're focusing very heavily on that. So just a quick introduction about what we're trying to do. And we do believe that uniting the builders of the digital age will have a lot of power to drive a lot of really good things around the world. So thank you, and welcome to the actual fireside chat. So I have got Bill Kleyman with me here. And Bill is, he's a technologist that's been in the industry, I think, for 15, 20 years, somewhere in there?
Not 20, not that old.
Not 20? Okay, you're not as old as me? Yeah, you're getting the gray. It's coming, don't worry. So I wanted to have a conversation with Bill because I find him fascinating. And I think that we can learn so much from these kind of conversations, at least I do every time I do them. So we have these fireside chats really to understand that individual and get some leadership lessons and insights into what have you done in your career, what have you learned, and what can you pass back on? Because we all get these little tidbits from those conversations that we can use in our own careers and our own lives. So Bill, he loves this title, Interview with the Millennial.
I don't know who voted for that. There's so many other millennials. It's just, don't give me that weight. No.
So I came up with that title because I just had to give him a hard time. So let me just tell you a little bit more about Bill. And then we're going to jump into some questions. So yes, I am old and I have gray hair. I got to put on glasses now. So Bill is ranked number 16 out of the top 100 most influential individuals in the global cloud landscape. He was ranked 4th of the industry's top data security experts. He's been in the industry for 15 years, and he's currently the Executive Vice President of Digital Technologies at Switch. He's a prolific writer and a social media contributor for publications such as Data Center Frontier, Data Center Knowledge, Information Week, Dark Reading, CBS Interactive, Tech Target, /. And ... There's a bunch of other ones. I won't bore him with the others. But Bill is a member of numerous advisory boards, and he just joined the Advisory Council for iMasons. And most recently, he's also now the chair, one of the chairs for our Millennial Gen Z member resource group. And Bill is a BS in Network and Communications Management from DeVry, an MBA in Marketing, and also a Master's in Information System Management at Keller Graduate School of Management. So he's got a few things going on. And I know Bill has an avid love for technology. Mm-hmm. And I want to start with a few connections that we have that...
This is the longest I've gone without talking. I just want everyone in this room to know. This is weird for me.
And this is what happens when you get two extroverts together on stage, right?
Oh, can you see the black hole of energy right here starting to form? Magnets.
So Bill and I were introduced by Eddie Shooter, and Eddie's on our board. And Eddie and I have worked together for a long time. And he said, you have to meet Bill. He goes, no. You guys you're kind of parallel people. You need to meet Bill. And so he came out to the member summit we had over at Vantage Data Centers in Santa Clara. And immediately we connected on a couple different planes. First was I found out that he went to DeVry. And so when you think about your own journey, who here actually chose this industry? Who chose to be in this field?
From the college?
Yeah. When you were coming out, did you know you were going to go into this industry?
Man, that is so representative.
It's like 3 people. Yeah. So exactly. And why? Because most of us, I assume, stumbled into this industry. We found it, and we've had very rewarding and lucrative careers, right? I mean, the challenges we've gotten and the rewards we've gotten back from have been pretty incredible. At least I know I have, and all the people I talk to have very similar stories. But when I was in high school, I was that kid that thought he could go out and get a job and everything would be great. So I worked for a year doing crap jobs and realized I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And so then my dad said, you're really good at electronics. You aced everything in high school. Why don't you go look at that? So I did, and I went to a trade school. I went to DeVry in Phoenix. And so when I found out that he also chose that path, the thing that tied it was being able to now get into the Silicon Valley. I got a job at Sun Microsystems. I started on my 21st birthday, and that was 30 years ago, as of 2 days ago. It all started from that trade school, and then I went back and got a bachelor's degree in technical management, et cetera. So I got more than that one, but you went and did multiple degrees at DeVry as well.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to talk a little bit more of that, but the other part was fun. I found out he's an acapella fan. Anybody know acapella? Anybody know Pentatonics? Yeah. Okay, so my daughter's group, Citizen Queen, that we've been following around, was signed by RCA Records, and one of the producers is from Pentatonics. He is a massive Pentatonics fan. So when
There's a video of us singing Bohemian Rhapsody at full volume that he took at one of the concerts. I'm happy to share. Not right now.
Don't know if we should do that one, but yeah. So we had a Madison Square Garden show, or my daughter did, and then we rented the suite, and Bill and his wife flew out to see that show. I mean, come on, it's Madison Square Garden. So that was just a great time. So anyways, I've talked enough, but I wanted you to get a connection here because this is the kind of thing that happens in iMasons, is you meet people, and then there's just relationships that are going to go forward for a long time. And you can't survive without your network. It's plain and simple. That network is what gets you opportunities and really helps you grow. And people that will challenge you and people that will help you in all types of different situations. So I'm glad to call you a friend now, and I appreciate you being up here. So I'm going to start with a couple questions.
I'm excited. Before we begin, I have a quick question for the audience. Who here is a millennial? Have some hands? Higher. Shy millennials.
Hold on.
Yeah, keep your hands up, please, if you can. If you're a millennial.
Okay, we got 7 millennials in the room.
Okay. It's very similar to what we had at our event.
Who's a Gen Z? Ha! Okay. 2, 3. You're not a Gen Z. Are you Gen?
Real old guys, raise your hand.
Yeah.
Baby boomer, yes.
Baby boomers, yeah.
Dinosaurs.
So maybe we should. So the point is that there's a completely different view and an insight that it needs to be. Do you want to share a little bit about our member summit?
Yeah, it was really a wonderful time over in California, where we had a chance to really communicate and talk to a lot of people in the industry. And one of the things that we did towards like the middle end of it is completely impromptu. It felt like a museum piece. I swear, it felt like an exhibit. We got like 6 or 7 millennials from that organization, from the conference, to stand up on stage. And we just got bombarded with questions. How did you get into this industry? What did you study? What motivates you? What are some of the misconceptions around the millennial, sort of the culture? Like things like, we feel that we're entitled, that we can work from home. And other generations feel like we're being lazy. That's not entirely true. In fact, I can be extraordinarily productive by being able to work from home when I'm given the right tools to be successful. It's nothing to do with my work ethic. It's just how well I work in my pajamas. So it's really about how we can be most productive using these kinds of tools. And what was fascinating is to hear across the board all of these millennials. Very much indicative of what we were hearing here today is that they got into this thing by accident. They were adopted from like IT. From like DevOps, somebody had an arts degree and now they're working in a data center. And this is common, and one of the most common things that we saw is that there's no anchor. There's no place for young people to really understand how to get into this industry. And I'm not talking about working in a data center that's done, right? I'm talking about construction, talking about working with energy, looking into future technologies like battery capacity for solar energy. All of these things are really, really important for STEM and STEAM programs for young people to know that there's a place that they can go beyond just like, I want to go into game development and create the health bar for Mortal Kombat. I mean, there's so much more than that. And I think a part of the challenge is that they just don't know how to get in. And they think that the data center is just like old, rackety, dusty servers that you get to plug stuff in and out of. But you take a walk through, certainly our facility at Switch or at Facebook or Google, it's inspiring. I mean, these are the systems that form and create the foundation for all of us, the connected digital future. I mean, every single person in this room has at least 2 devices, maybe 1 to 2 devices that can connect to the cloud. I'd wager that there's probably here that maybe even more. I mean, I did a session one time, a guy had 6 physical devices on him. He pointed to a pager. I gave that to him. It was like, he was in the medical field, so good for him. But that's what we found out is during this summit, this iMason session that we're all in the same boat together. There's challenges as far as getting new young people into the data center and tech field, how to entice them, how to talk to them, how to get them excited about it. But I think it's a start to a problem we can together solve.
Mm-hmm. And what was interesting about that session was we were doing a working session. So we put out, and Julie Albright is on our board. She has a new book out called Left to Their Own Devices. And it really gives insight into this generation and how they approach things. And not that anything is wrong, it's just different than a lot of the way that other generations operate. And we were trying to figure out, well, how do we engage and interface and retain, recruit, within this generation? And I found it really funny. We kept telling the generation what it was. And so in the middle, we're like, wait a minute, so Bill's a millennial, and that's why I asked people to raise their hand. I'm like, how many millennials in the audience? And we had 7 of them. We're like, can you just come up on stage and tell us? Because it's a bit entitled on us that we would tell you. So that's where it was a really interesting session.
Agreed.
And Casey, so he's also, he and Casey are going to be running the member resource group. Casey brought up a really important point, which was they want a place where they can connect. And connect personally, right? What is the purpose? Like, what is my community? And this is where an iMasons session and a group can actually really help with that. And so that's where we decided to put together the member resource group, really focused on millennials and Gen Z. How do we get them enticed into our field, just like you were saying?
Exactly. It could be a physical anchor, it could be a digital anchor, just a place where young people can ask questions and understand better how they can get into this industry, how they can succeed, what certifications they can focus on. A part of it's mentorship, a part of it's asking the right questions, and a part of it's just a place to belong. Honestly, I mean, it's lacking right now, and I think this kind of initiative is really going to get people inspired to get the best kind of talent, to get them on the right track to do great things for, honestly, everybody.
And they're the next generation.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
They're literally going to take over and continue to drive what we've spent a lot of years building.
I think I just wrote an article for DCK called Millennials and Gen Zs are going to save the data center. Yeah, there you go.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's get into your story. So can you just tell me how you got here? Not Caltrain. How did you get here in this industry?
I love tech. Are we going back to the whole story?
Start at the beginning.
All the way into the different countries and Europe and all that stuff?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I wasn't born in the United States. You can clearly tell by my strong accent. I was born in Kiev, Ukraine, and I got a chance to study linguistics a little bit, so this is a nice Midwestern accent that we can all connect to. And I came to the States in December of 1991, and I remember in Soviet Russia, in Ukraine, specifically Kiev, my brother, 12 years older than I was, he was a part of this telegraph competition, right? So you guys know Morse code and all that stuff. And he was like third, I think, in his division, in his age division in the entire nation. He was really good. Like I would see him with his headphones on, just it was so cool, right? I'm this 5-year-old and I'd watch my brother communicate with people all over Russia. And I would always kind of sit there and watch him do it. And sometimes he would let me put on the headphones and talk to one of his buddies in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and he taught me Morse code. He taught me Morse code, how to do SOS, and how to punch in my longitude and latitude if I ever got lost. And that's all I would do, was like, numbers and just a couple of words here and there. But I was always fascinated since a really young age how we communicate. We're talking like a telegraph system here, you guys. And right? This is crazy. But I was fascinated by this simple technology, this Morse code system that allowed people to connect, communicate, share ideas and thoughts, compete, in a in the former Soviet Union. And ever since then, I really had a passion for how this stuff worked. And I carried that over to high school, where I took computer science classes. Then in college, I had to make a really tough decision. I actually got a swimming scholarship. And I could have gone and done the swimming program. It was a D2 school. But I'm 5'8". I don't have webbed hands. I am not a Phelps. I've swam against Olympic swimmers. And I'm like, I am not going to do this. I am not going to be a very good swimmer. I'm just going to probably be on the swim team. And so I made this decision to go to DeVry, and for me it was great. I got a network engineering degree, and I was able to graduate with a bachelor's degree right after my 21st birthday, which was just nonstop. Went to school over the summer, pretty much didn't take a break, got my MBA in marketing, because anyone who has, and this is your first piece of advice if you're a young person, if you have a technical background and you have a strong business acumen, Jesus Christ, you're gonna succeed. You're absolutely gonna understand. If you can understand and speak the language of business and correlate that to technology and how things work, how tech brings value to business, and you can explain that stuff to business leaders, you're gonna gain champions, you're gonna gain a following, and you're gonna be able to progress. I never gave up on the technical side. If you ever go to my house, you'll find a closet with a half rack in there, a bunch of servers. I have my own VMware and Hyper-V Cloud. I've got my own applications that I host. A full-on Cisco ecosystem with access points. I mess with Meraki all the time. But I love doing this stuff, and I don't ever want to let go of it. So even coming through college, and then after my MBA, I got an information systems management degree with security concentration, because who doesn't want to know more about security and data security? I never let go of the technical side. It's a hard balance to be able to learn and work with business leaders, but because of that, because of being able to still be technical and have these kind of conversations and take that business degree, I was a CTO of a $300 million company at maybe 30? Right? And I was able to help this company grow in the virtualization and cloud space, and then coming to Switch to help them do some great things as well. But the whole point is that through this upbringing, through all this sort of understanding of how I got into this industry, it's always finding a right balance between technology and how to get people excited about that technology, whether it's business leaders, customers, other people in the world, and get people stoked, get people excited about the things that we have.
How did you, so you went and got a networking degree, right? Focused on networking. But then you went for an MBA for marketing.
Yeah.
How did you make that choice?
Well,
did you have a job during that period?
I did. I had a full-time job. Okay. I was a wee little junior administrator, network admin, and I was growing in a nice company that was building virtualization solutions at the time. There was, and this wasn't that long ago, it was maybe like 10 years ago or so, I saw a huge gap between technology and being able to explain that technology to business leaders. So I was this young consultant that understood why you need to upgrade this Exchange server, where a tech, an IT engineer who sometimes has blinders on and go into IT business and say, you need to upgrade that Exchange server. Well, why? Well, because the new one's cooler. Well,
it's done. Let me give you money.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure
Let me give you money. Exactly. It would never happen. And no one gave everybody money. But that kind of statement, right? If you start saying, well, I want to upgrade this Exchange server because if someone goes out and hacks your previous version, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, and here's how much it's going to cost you. Usually CIOs and C-level people are like, I don't want that responsibility or task. Here's your dollars. The degree, the MBA concentrating in marketing, taught me the language of the business, right? Understanding the psychology of the buyer. Sure. There's so many little nuances, you guys, and even developing things like collateral and stories around data centers. I mean, I'll give you a silly example. If you use square types of media, it's masculine. If it's circular or like rounded edges, it's more feminine. And just a silly little example, nuances, right? Yeah, nuances like that. But what it taught me was how to get across to leadership, senior leadership, as a young person, so they would listen and get just as excited as I am as far as the things that are happening out there. I couldn't recommend it enough. I think
this is also storytelling, right?
Right.
So explain a little bit more about that. Why is that important?
Being able to tell a story is going to be one of your most critical factors in terms of understanding both the tech and how you get across to people. There's a really fun article on Data Center Frontier, and I actually wrote it, and you can find it. I think Rich Miller, if you guys know who he is, has been retweeting it. It's how to make your next data center conference awesome, and it's all about either doing a presentation or telling a story. If you ever, who's here done a presentation, gotten up and there's like a slide deck or something? I'm sure everybody has, right? I will never, if you ever come see me speak, I'll never look at a deck, ever. I don't look at it because it's not about that. It's about the story that you're trying to tell to people, getting them inspired to do things, whatever the message you're trying to convey, whether it's cloud, data center, energy efficiency, DevOps, new kinds of applications you're trying to deploy. You have to be able to tell the story, but it's easier said than done, man. And public speaking is like either the number 1 or number 2 biggest fear next to clowns or something. I think I remember reading that, or like the fear of death. And it's so difficult because you get up here and it's hard. You know, you've got all these smiling, happy faces. I know not everyone in this room is going to like me. I know everyone in the room is going to think I'm a caffeinated chipmunk, which is totally fine. But as long as I can get through to a couple of you to get just as inspired and excited as I am about the things that we're creating, that's a part of the story. To connect, my goal, Dean, when I'm talking to 50 or 1,000 people is to connect with one person. Have that aha moment with somebody where their eyes lit up and they say, I never knew this was possible. I'm so excited to try this. And for me, that's an accomplishment. Obviously, hopefully there's more than one, maybe 2 people that'll like you, but that's the goal.
I see that on Greg right now.
Well, he's texting, so whatever. And it was just totally fine. You guys need to, there we go. I'm a millennial. You guys can totally check your email in between. I got it. But telling the story and being able to be, insightful, being able to actually get people excited about what you're trying to tell and get them just as excited and inspired. That's so much of it. Never sell. You will sell. Your passion, energy, excitement, and knowledge is going to sell whatever you're trying to talk about in general. But it's hard to do, Dean. It really, really is. And I'm here, sort of pontificating how fun it is to tell a story, but it's honestly one of the harder things to do out there.
So this relates quite a bit of being able to translate technology and complex things into a very simple thing that a non-technologist can understand. So when I was over at eBay, I got mentored by Bob Swan, who's the CEO over at Intel right now, and John Donahoe, who's the CEO over at ServiceNow. I just feel blessed to even spend time with those guys. But they taught me a lot. And one of those things was when I first went in with the CFO, and we were building lots of things, I would start to explain all these things, and then zoop, the gloss would go over the eyes. It's like, he's a CFO. He doesn't care about the tech.
Get your spreadsheet out, show them the rules.
Yeah, he said, so what is the value proposition? What is the return? Why should I do this? And it was a very interesting moment, but he didn't go back and just kill it. He coached me. And that mentoring is so valuable. And when I came back to him later, and I'll give a little example, a few years later, he said, well, I'm gonna tell you your pros and cons, and basically in assets and liabilities. Like, okay. So he explained, he goes, well, you make the complex very simple. I can get it like that. I'm like, great. And he goes, on the con side, the liability, you're also a cowboy. And people talk about you kind of move fast, you're jumping around different things, right? And he goes, so I think that you should be careful about that, try not to cause too many wakes. And he goes, that's officially. He goes, and officially, I want you to be a cowboy. I'm like, huh. Interesting. So it's kind of like you cannot make progress without breaking a few things.
Yeah.
And so you have to challenge conventional wisdom and you have to go after those. But it was just, that kind of mentorship is really important. And you just made me think about it. When you can tell the story and you can really connect to people, you can do almost anything. And that part of it, if you are nervous about that public speaking or whatever, if you just can go back and connect to what it is you're trying to say in the story and just have one main point with 3 supporting elements and always go back to them.
You bring up such a good point. I recommend being a cowboy. I think what your mentor is just trying to tell you is you just need to ride the horse a little better. Yeah. That's all it is, right? That's all he was trying to say. Is like you need to be you up there because that's what it's all about. And Dean, you bring up such a good point for young people. Surround yourself with people who can mentor you. And I always
I don't
did
think
that.
It's just young people.
Anybody. Yeah, you
Yes.
can learn from anybody in this industry. I guess obviously reciprocated here on this stage, but. One of the biggest things I recommend is don't be afraid to be criticized or criticism or get feedback. I've always tried to go back to people and say, what can I do better? What can be improved here? And it's nothing against you. It's always a way for you to improve yourself and become better in the industry. And that's a lot of times we get scared because we feel like we're being judged or we feel like we're being talked down to, or that's never the case. And always be open to criticism and how you can improve conversation, both between young and old and the other way around.
Yeah, I was going to tell you something about that shirt, but I decided. Kidding.
Style.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's move on. So you've recently joined Switch.
Yeah.
And so you can tell me what you're doing there. Why did you take this position?
So I never thought I'd go to work for a data center company. I'm gonna flat out say that right now. I loved working at MTM previously.
And what was MTM?
MTM Technologies is actually the largest Citrix partner in the country. They did a lot of stuff with like VMware, Microsoft, Citrix, obviously, all about hyperconverged solutions. So that's where I really got a chance to learn about data center industry by putting the infrastructure in the walls that support it all.
And this is where you were the youngest CTO.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Now this is I was CTO. I mean, I started with that company as a virtualization cloud architect, right? Always keeping in line with the technology. And even as a CTO, I would still run labs. I'd work with my engineers and architects. I would be literally in the trenches with them at like conferences and technical training sessions. And I don't be afraid to do that. Always try and follow your passions and keep learning. But after MTM, I went to a company called EPAM Systems for just about a year. And it was 28,000 people, of which 23,000 were in Eastern Europe. So literally, I would wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, wouldn't speak any English until like 4 or 5 o'clock at night. It's weird. Like the first couple of weeks, my brain would hurt a little bit because I don't know how to translate some of these technical terms into Russian or Ukrainian, but you learn quickly. And in that role, I got a chance to learn about DevOps, DevSec test ops, some of the most advanced cloud deployments you can imagine. I'm talking like ERP, AS400 migration into Google Cloud or into like Amazon services. It was insane and it was so much fun. Then our CEO, Rob Roy, sends me a note. He's like, hey, Bill, people know you in the industry. Why don't you come work for Switch? I'm like, you guys are just a data center company. I don't want to go work for you guys. And he's just like, Bill, come out to Vegas. Let me give you a tour of the facility. And if you don't know our founder and CEO, Rob Roy, he can be very convincing. And he runs
He can tell a story.
Yeah, right. He
Right
can
there.
tell a story. But he also does run a world-class organization with probably the best data centers in the world, in my opinion, right now. And I got a tour and I got a chance to talk with him. And half of the 4-hour conversation was around Marvel characters and Iron Man and like the Star Wars figurines he had in the office. Great interview. And I basically knew that was the fit and that was the company that I wanted to go work for. And my role, my day-to-day as the EVP of digital solutions is I get a chance to wear a lot of hats. I literally work with everything from our development, DevOps teams, to cloud strategy and architecture, to our data center design and deployment teams, and obviously, evangelism, helping to write, continuing to be a part of the industry. It's a magical organization. I make it sound like Disneyland, but it's because I'm surrounded by brilliant people, right? Technologists, and as weird as it is to have my face up there, it's so weird. It's so weird. I wish it was another slide. It's amazing to be humbled on a daily basis because of how many brilliant people I'm around every day, not just to Switch, but obviously in the industry. So and this sounds kind of cheesy, but I'm literally helping build the foundation for the digital future along with you guys, with everybody that we work with, whether it's a customer or an industry partner. And it's really, really cool. It's really exciting. It's really amazing. And it's wonderful to see that eye-opening experience of our customers.
Yeah, and if you notice, finding something that you really love just shows when it jumps out. Like you're just exuding happiness, I think, when it comes down to what you're doing every day.
People have in the front row. It's like a
right.
Gallagher show in a watermelon, right?
Yeah, Gallagher. And you wake up excited about your job.
Yes, right after I changed my baby. But yeah. Yeah, right on.
Too funny. All right, so I heard that Elon Musk actually drove you to the Switch data center in Grand Rapids. Can you tell me about that?
He did. So, oh my God, I can't believe I'm telling this story. So if you know our facilities, they're all very unique and very awesome. I highly recommend everyone take a look at Grand Rapids Switch. It's a pyramid. It's literally a pyramid. It is amazing. I was just out there recently, and I didn't drive necessarily the entire way from Chicago to Grand Rapids, Michigan. A very large of the way, my car drove it for me, pretty much. They have
So this is a logical.
This is a logical Elon Musk. He was not chauffeuring me from Chicago to Grand Rapids.
He channeled through the AI.
He did. He
Okay.
channeled through the AI. But what an amazing experience, right? I get in the 94. There's a new function on these Teslas where you can do on-ramp to off-ramp navigation. Literally, you just hit it and it gets you on the on-ramp. And the latest update, you could just do automatic lane changes. So it'll stay with the flow of traffic. It'll do what it needs to do. It'll detect construction. The AI is so intelligent it can differentiate between motorcycles, people, construction gear, trucks, semi-trucks, large trucks, smaller trucks. And what was really interesting is the IHSA recently released a new study on what an autonomous vehicle is. 1 is you better be holding onto that wheel, and 6 is fully autonomous. And what people don't realize, why you see people sleeping in those cars in LA sometimes, is that Tesla is a 3. It's not a 6, it's not a 5, it's a 3, right? They're trying to get to like a 4.5, maybe a 5, but we're still far away. So obviously I'm paying attention, but what an experience. What a kind of future that we're going to be living in is when you're just, I was just chilling. It was a completely different kind of experience, just relaxing, sitting in a car, and it drives for you, and it's going to say, hey, I'm going to change lanes because these guys are slow, would change lanes for me, and it takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
It does. You are relinquishing some control, and you do have to rewire how your brain thinks as far as driving. But that happened, and it's the new normal. And I absolutely believe that that's a part of a connected society. It's just you're driving an iPad with wheels. I don't know how else to say it. It's really what it is.
Big battery.
Yeah, just a giant battery. Yeah, exactly.
Rolling battery. That makes me think about a couple of things. The way we're interacting with technology these days. So you've got, of course, the autonomous vehicles and the progress is being made there, but then you have Alexa and all these different systems that you're able to just communicate with.
Right.
Have you done anything with like cognitive AI or any around that area? Have you done the exploration or exploration?
So we did. In my previous company, I did a lot of AI and machine learning building. Let me give you guys a really cool inspirational example. So I worked with this company called Roche. I'm familiar with this, right? And there was a system that's called the Cobas 8100. And I can't picture it. Like if you take a look, it's like 4 rows of these chairs, right, together, maybe like a little bit of a depth. And it is a fully automated molecular biotechnology testing machine for blood screening, viral load screening, testing of like various types of diseases, for example. And it produces an absolutely massive amount of information that's absolutely critical to people's health. And our team was tasked with creating an architecture that could take all of that data and ingest it into a machine learning and AI engine that could forecast maintenance, that could tell people if the results are accurate, that could actually send the information into Google Cloud intelligently. And then we created a visualization engine, a data visualization engine that would take that and give the respective person the information that they need to make it more proactive and even more so predictive. It's amazing, and we've done other kinds of platforms for connected cities, smart solutions as far as cars and vehicles, and all of this is data-driven. So outside of like Amazon Alexa and whatnot, it's funny you bring this up because voice inflection technologies, that's going to come into your data center. Another article I wrote for DCK around Amazon Alexa and how already there's testing going on. You can get an API and you can put an Amazon Alexa in your data center and you can say spin up DevOps cluster in rack number 3, and based on your voice inflection, your backend programming, it'll spin up a DevOps cluster in rack number 3 on your given server, all done by a voice inflection. That's the future, right? We did a DCIM lab, and that was one of the things that people said were going to be one of the things that we're going to be seeing. I saw a cool example of Vertiv on the floor where you put like these virtual reality goggles on. You might die from tripping on everything, but it's really, really cool, right? You're putting this thing on, and like you're opening a rack door, and there's gear inside of this thing, and it's just
training, right?
Yeah, it
training
was
simulators.
Yeah, what's right here? If you guys, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just it's crazy, right? And can you imagine being able to put those kind of AR goggles, augmented reality, being able to walk into your data center, and instead of VR, it's transparent. You can see where stuff goes, where entire racks goes, how connectivity is going to go into that rack, and it's interactive too. You can point to one and say, okay, well, let me see what happens if I drop the cable here, or if I reposition this cable, and you can transport yourself from the front, the back of the rack, 2 inches from it, or like 15 feet. That's the future, man. You literally remote DCIM for somebody sitting in California working on a data center in Virginia. It's insane.
This is, I see a lot of seasoned people in here, and you think about the experience that you've got and the things that you know about that others coming in the industry have not experienced. And so how could you reach lots of them? That virtual environment, you can take that knowledge and you can create those simulations. Like I think of ArcFlash and a bunch of things inside of data centers that can kill you. And so being able to train and test and simulate within an environment that won't kill you is very, really important. So our first New York iMasons meeting, we held it at a company called IPsoft, and they overlook the Statue of Liberty, right? They've got some really nice real estate. But they went back and they combed our entire site, and then they plugged it into their cognitive AI called Amelia.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen this, it's actually really cool.
Amazing.
So, and then I just went back there at the Madison Square Garden Show. I just connected with some folks, right? And I saw what they're doing now. And it's all under the covers, like people don't know. So they have this thing called One Desk. And now it is doing cognitive. So think about it. When you're typing something in, it can now connect back in and understand all your context, and it will learn as you're going. And they're replacing 6,000 some odd customer support engineers in all these different places with full-on cognitive AI assistants.
And they're really, really smart. I can pretty much guarantee that 90% of the people in this room, if you talk to Bank of America, United Airlines, American, Amazon, you probably talked to a chatbot and you never even knew it. Even like on phone calls and whatnot, there's folks like CW that, you can call them and you say, hey, I'm missing a cable. Could you please tell me your order number? Tell them the order number. It's missing, and they'll send it to you without any human interaction.
Yep, and you have talked to an AI. You have. You just don't know. And there's some stuff coming out with some of the banks.
And that's the problem in the past. They were dumb. These AIs were so frustrating. Human person, you pressed 1. I'm like, I didn't press 1. I didn't press anything. Why? I just want to talk to a person. Human agent. Sí, hablo español. That's it. I'm out.
So now the cognitive part of that, what's interesting is they will be able to get 90% of that, your tone, your inflection, the other pieces they can understand, they can react to you. Yep, exactly. They can react to you in real time. And then when they can't, and this isn't them just going through a script with A, B, C, D. It literally is dynamically adapting to the situation. And then when they can't, they say, actually, I'm going to get one of my partners on here to help. Then a human joins, and they watch, and they learn, and the database grows. And they now can handle the next one. So that's what's happening. I hate to, it's like Skynet, but
it's cool.
It is really, really neat.
Well, someone from Northrop Grumman referenced Skynet yesterday at the plenary panel. I'm like, did someone from Northrop Grumman just say Skynet? That's not good. Don't they make military stuff? This isn't good at all. I'm nervous. Hashtag nervous.
Yes.
Yeah, that's scary.
So we're getting off track here, but the tech is always the fun part of this too. So we talked about the Millennial Member Resource Group, but I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the personal and contextual conversation or connection you have with tech. You said that you had this the moment with your brother, right? But you also had a kind of a more personal thing that I heard about at dinner last night, right? If we turn the lights off, you glow. You glow, right?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Right?
No, not anymore.
Can you tell us that story?
Yeah. So, anyone see that HBO series, the new one? Yeah, that one. Yeah. First-hand experience. Yay. I'm fine. I don't glow anymore. It was
You
great.
were at Chernobyl.
I was. I was young. I got sick, unfortunately. I was April 26th. I remember playing outside. April 27th, I felt very ill. Unfortunately, I had some serious lung issues for up until I was about 14, 15 years old. Until I joined the swim team. Actually, that saved my life. Pretty much, just flat out cleared everything out. Swimmer's lungs. Peak season, I could go about 150 yards underwater. It was amazing. But yeah, it was April 26th, 1986. I remember it. Like I said, playing outside. The next day, I get really sick, and we had doctors come into our condo at the time, and they're like, we don't know what's wrong with him. We don't know what's wrong. We have no idea why your son is sick. And I don't want to get into details. It was not good. And I remember we had a moment there where a friend of ours in the Soviet military came to our condo, and she's just like, Yuri, pack your bags and leave the city. My dad's like, I have to go to work tomorrow. No. And she's like, Yuri, pack your bags and leave the city, or my men downstairs are going to escort your family out. So we're like, well, the Americans have launched the bomb or something. We don't know what's going on. So we bail, and we go to Crimea in the Black Sea, and that's when we start to tune into all the radio stations from across the world. And everyone's like, oh, okay, time out. Something happened. Something blew up in the Ukraine, and something's going on. And eventually, 48 hours later, they acknowledged it. In 72 hours, they evacuated Pripyat. And then at that time, we were already in the south, so I started feeling a little bit better. I was getting some fresh air. But surprisingly enough, it was again communications and technology that finally told us what was happening around the world before our own government did. Right. Then it was living in Siberia for a little while to try and escape the radiation, and then becoming stateless refugees and finally coming to the United States. Well, they closed the border, and then you say, hey, I want to go. They're like, okay, give me your passport. Tore it up and say, you're traitors to the nation. Get out. So yeah, that was intense. But
wow.
it was But as far as finding out what happened, it was crazy, right? You're tuning into these stations and these communication platforms from all over the world in the 80s to try and find out what's going on in your own country. But that was pretty intense. That's a place where obviously nuclear technology can fail and communication technology can help save your life in some ways. But I'm fine now. I can see a lot of concerned faces. I'm totally fine. If anyone has a Geiger counter, it doesn't tick anymore on me. There we go. I'm fine up until about the age of 50. So everything's good right now.
All right. So let's shift gears.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what we might be missing in this industry?
I think a lot of what we're trying to accomplish and what we're missing right now, especially, is and so if anyone read the AFCOM State of the Data Center report, it was a report that I had a chance to co-author, and really proud of that. It's the third one that I've done, and in that report, we've continuously seen this gap between it's a shortage of people coming into our industry, and we were sitting at the advisory council meeting in San Francisco, and this was said. And I'm not kidding you guys. These are all of my competitors, which again, we leave the name tags at the door. And these are the biggest data center founders in the world saying, we have a problem with talent. We have a serious issue and a gap in trying to get young people in through the doors because the recruitment process is broken. Right? There's no really good flow around it. There's some organizations that are teaching young people what data centers and technology is, but a lot of it's sort of glamorous in the world of DevOps and application development. And there's a complete misconception, right? I don't mean to harp on DevOps people because I spent a lot of time in that, but if you go to a developer and you ask them a technical question around how servers work or how a data center functions, they're going to stare at you and say, I can write something in Java for you. And that's, I can write a really cool class that might be able to answer that question. But these guys are so focused on the coding and development part of it that they don't understand the underlying infrastructure that supports it. And sometimes you get a DevOps guy that says, well, this is pretty cool, let me learn about it. And sometimes they cross over. A lot of times it's coming from IT, networking, somebody who's doing Cisco UCS design and deployment who steps into a data center and gets excited about it. Yeah. It's a serious issue. There's programs and there's extracurricular activities in colleges that tell people what the data center is like. I'm going to be speaking in Tulane in September or October, talking to undergrads in the technology space so they can understand what a data center is and how it functions. There's a lot of misconceptions. So I think what we're missing, and this is a challenge to everybody, is to go back to your organizations and ask, how are we recruiting young people? How are we approaching that challenge of getting them excited and motivated? Because there's a bit of a discrepancy as far as how we've approached it, right? In the past, we've gone experience, aptitude, and attitude. What's your experience? Then maybe what's your capability to learn? And then what is your attitude towards the company and how excited are you, right? Young people don't have that, right? I want 10 years experience for a junior level position. The guy's like 20. When I start working when I'm 10, it's a serious challenge, right? So today, some of these leading organizations, and I've seen this at Google, at Facebook, and Amazon, these people that are actively getting some of the best talent out of different kinds of universities, they focus on aptitude and attitude, and then they say, we'll build the experience. Don't worry about that. We will build the experience for you, right? What is your aptitude to learn? What's your personality like? How open and willing are you actually to accept these new kinds of lessons? Then, what's your attitude like? Are you a negative person? How are you going to fit into my culture? Are you a positive individual who's always willing to learn? And experience, if you've got a tiny bit, we'll build on that foundation. These are the people, organizations that are hiring the best talent out there because they're not scaring smart, young individuals away because they don't have experience. Switch does that, right? We try and get young people in and we tell them it's all right, we'll train you, we'll teach you, we'll help you grow. But there's a lot of legacy-minded people out there that take experience as your de facto. You could have the most experienced person in the world out there and they're never going to be motivated to do anything else, ever. They'll get the job done as long as that's all they need to do. But somebody with aptitude and that willingness to learn and the attitude to learn and to be excited about what they do every single day, that's a golden individual. You'll help them learn. You'll help them build. That's me, right? I'm that positive. I'm that energetic person. I didn't have a lot of experience coming in. No. This is... I had like one cup of coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning.
He's like three times higher than me already. So.
Never. But that's something I want everyone to take away from this. Seriously though, like it's that formula that's going to lead to success for every single person in this room. Is focus on the candidate, help them build the experience, but aptitude and attitude, that's so huge.
And this ties back to Julie's book quite a bit.
Right.
It's, we're scaring away a lot of people in this industry because we're approaching it in the traditional manner. What experience do you have? You're following this script almost in an interview process.
Yeah.
So Google, and I think, Skylar, is Facebook doing this too, where they now have said it's not a college degree requirement. We got to look at you as an individual, first off, and just that he's articulated.
Yeah.
Finding that. So Google, because they're having a hard time finding people, same with Facebook and the others that are hiring thousands and thousands of people, they want to go back and get talent, and it's interesting to watch. I mean, think about it. I didn't go to a four-year university, and I got all these opportunities.
Yeah.
And, I look at nothing against four-year universities. I just think that we need the balance of it as well. And we do have a pipeline that's drying up. We don't have the awareness of the industry. And we don't have people coming in, they're going to the other side, who are going to app development, to the business and the finance side. We've got to get that awareness up. But then when that starts, we could scare them all away if we don't interview them the right way, right? Exactly. You're missing the point of the talent.
What a misconception. School and education and certifications are always going to be critical, so I will never downplay that. But I went to DeVry, and I got crap for that. People are like, what did you have to do to get in? Open a door? I'm like, it's funny, right? But then I'm like, sure, do you want to know what I do for a living?
Yeah, exactly.
This sounds so pretentious. Why don't you put my name into Google and tell me what DeVry has done for me, right? And it's about the school, it's about how well you do, certainly, and it's about the extracurriculars that you do, and certainly the amount of time you put into schooling. Yeah. But it goes to that earlier point where it's not just about the experience, right? You could be a slacker in Harvard or a straight A student at DeVry, and you just put that willingness and the energy to learn. And I was number one in the class. I graduated, and it was because I loved what I did. And we had great professors with real-world hands-on experience. I worked on military-grade Cisco gear at DeVry in Chicago, literally. And we had military people come in and show us how they would evacuate this stuff in an emergency if they were under fire. This is seriously armored Cisco stuff that we got a chance to play with. When I was getting my CCNA back in college, and it was wonderful, right? You're going to put slack on DeVry for that, for teaching you so much wonderful hands-on experience. And again, you should look at education. You should look at what people have done. You should look at the activities that they've done. But that should never be your isolating judgment in terms of how you get them hired. And I absolutely agree. I've seen and worked with brilliant individuals that I will never hold it against them that all they have is a high school degree. Never even bring it up again because it's what they do every single day. We had one of our NOC engineers, brilliant director, hoop earrings, sleeve tattoos. When a customer comes in, we're just like, can you take those out and put a shirt on? All good. And that's all we ask of him. That's all we ask of him because we still want him to be that individual, right? He does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's got all these tats, giant earrings. He's so good at what he does. He's so talented and he's so good at what he does. It's fine. You can look like that. Just be good at what you do and be happy and passionate about it.
So
I don't have any sleeves. Is that what you're gonna?
Yeah, well, we're gonna get a tattoo together after this.
iMasons tat right
here. That's right. Yeah. So if you were able to tell your 15-year-old self something right now, what would it be?
Buy stock in Google.
Yeah. Besides that.
Or Facebook, Scar. Yeah. Thanks, Karen. Oh, Skylar. There's a guy from Facebook here, and he's awesome. He's giving me crap.
He did buy stock.
He did. What would I tell my 15-year-old self? It's really interesting because I didn't learn the English language until I was like 11 or 12. Mm-hmm. So I was still really learning about the American and English culture a lot. Listen, I remember when I had my first s'more, when I had my first Cheerios, when I had my first piece of dark chocolate. We didn't have that stuff in the Soviet Union. You get an apple, you get lucky. So, I would tell my 15-year-old self, and this is good news because I think I'm still following that, is never, ever lose your childhood sense of wonder and imagination, ever. And this goes out to everybody out here, right? Put a G.I. Joe thing on your desk, right? Have a Star Wars painting in your office. Never, ever lose your sense of imagination because that's when innovation stops, right? That's when we stop dreaming and start following, the shadows of the other people in the world. And it's not bad to follow brilliance. It's not. I do that every single day. When I surround myself with amazing people. And Dean, you're one of those people that I get a chance to learn from every single day. But if you go back, and this is not something you have to go back and just lament that I never did this when I was 15, you can still absolutely regain that childhood sense of wonder. And I had somebody say that to me one time. I remember I like some Lego soldiers on my desk, and somebody said, aren't you a little too old for playing that? And I said, aren't you a little too young to lose your sense of imagination? And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, right? Yeah, it was actually, I said, aren't you too young to lose your childhood sense of wonder? That's what I said. And he kind of he took a step back. But that's the idea here, is for everyone in the room. And those young people that you have working with you, they certainly have that. And keep that passion and that fire stoked, keep them imagining. Certainly that's what Rob Roy does in my company every single day, and he pushes on our team to keep imagining. That's all I would say to myself when I'm 15. If I just this weird dude who has too much energy going up to a 15-year-old, I'm like, just do you. Don't ever stop imagining. Just keep being so passionate and excited about what we're doing, because every single person in this room is creating the future, or at least the foundation for that future, and it's so cool. I think, Dean, a lot of times we get lost in our day-to-day mundane world. And you heard me speak earlier, right? In 2007, the iPhone came out. 2007, that's not that long ago, and it revolutionized the way we communicate. If anything, share content. And we often forget, how many of you guys have an Alexa at home? Alexa, and that's anything, any like a smart device at home. Yeah, it doesn't have to be plugged in. It could just be sitting there. Yeah, but I remember in 2012, I was at VMworld, one of the key stages, and I asked who's got like a Fitbit, right? One of these little Fitbit step counters. And this guy in the back raised his hand. He's like, I've got a Fitbit, it can count my steps. People started making fun of him. It's like, be an adult, count your own steps. And I really said, this is going to be the future. It's going to be like the #1 Christmas item next year. And it was. And, take the blinders off sometime and realize just how much of a connected society we are. We are walking, talking, data-generating engines. And I think sometimes we get so, those blinders, I'm certainly guilty of it as well, but take those off and see just how quickly we are all evolving, and how every single person here, I don't care if you're in procurement, if you're data center ops, energy facilities, whatever you are, you're building that sort of foundation. And it's important not to hold on to legacy practices. Be innovative, look to the future. I think that's important.
So I'm going to ask you one question as we close. So tell me the top 3 leadership lessons you've learned so far.
Did we write this down? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt are going to be your mortal enemy in a lot of situations, especially if you're a technologist trying to convince senior people of a new system or a new approach. So whatever the case might be, and this is not just to millennials, I think this is to anybody out there, whatever you're trying to push, whatever you're trying to innovate, make sure it's not just the cool factor of the tech. Right? Make sure it's a system that can support the business, that can support the user. And one of the biggest things I can recommend there is focus on how it all impacts the user. The other big thing is complacency. Never, ever become complacent, because come on, look at how fast this stuff is going. I got driven in a car. I didn't drive. It's just you guys need. This is going to be our new normal. My child, she's 1 year old. When she's 16. Being the active pilot of a car will be her secondary function. This is insane, right? I mean, this is you grow up, with your dad driving you around in a Chevy station wagon saying, watch out for that curb, and now Elon Musk is going to be like, everything's fine, just chill and drink a coffee. That's kind of the future that we've got over there. And this is the big one. This is the big one that is where a lot of people kind of get nervous because they think they're being judged. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail and learn from that. Because listen, I've failed. I failed. I've gotten right back up. I've made mistakes, and you fail fast, and you recover even faster. That's a big one. I think everyone should not be afraid of failure, because if you work in an environment that supports innovation and future thought and thinking, they're going to support your learning. And a part of learning is stumbling along the way every once in a while. I think that's the most important thing, is that we expect perfection. But how do you learn from perfection? If you're perfect every single day, if you try to please everyone, you're going to please nobody. I think that's the big one, is don't be afraid to fail and learn from that failure. Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Bill. We appreciate your insights, as always.
Thank you, guys.